Welcome to 5 Minute Feng Shui, episode number 2. What is Feng Shui? Welcome to the 5 Minute Feng Shui podcast, where each week I talk about how to move energy and make money. You'll learn how to create a prosperous home and abundant life using classical Chinese Feng Shui. I'm your host, Katie Weber, publisher of the Red Lotus Letter, Feng Shui Easy for Wealth. Each week I'll cover Feng Shui topics that can help improve your life, share inspiring stories, and I always end with 3 easy-to-implement Feng Shui tips that you can put to work right away and usually in about 5 minutes. Now let's get started on the 5 minutes that can change your life. Hi, it's Katie, and lots of people ask me, what's Feng Shui? And when I tell them that, Feng Shui is, by my definition, the idea or concept that the way we decorate and arrange our homes or offices has a direct impact on our health, our love relationships, and our money. And that the way that we improve those situations is by simply making changes around our home. You know, Feng Shui basically is the idea that energy is everywhere, that there are actual moving rivers of energy throughout our atmosphere. Now, we're modern people. We know this to be true, right? I mean, what's holding your feet to the ground? It's gravity. Can you see it? Can you smell it? Can you touch it? No. We are listening to this podcast because there are recording and there are sound waves that move through our environment. Again, we can't see, smell, or touch it, but it's still real. And the same thing is true with Feng Shui. We have a river of energy that moves through every space, whether it's your home, your bedroom, your office, no matter where, even your neighborhood, no matter where you are. So we know that because energy is everywhere, that it actually surrounds us. It affects our lives, including the quality of our lives. And one of the classic ways for me of understanding how energy that surrounds us is with Feng Shui. A lot of people call Feng Shui the art of placement, but there's more than where you place a lamp. The Chinese I Ching is really at the root of Feng Shui. It's a classic text that explains how life is a constant ebb and flow, and that the rhythm of life is based on a cyclical nature. We know that, right? Because the moon waxes and wanes each month, the sun sets every day. This explains that how we can move from fortune to misfortune, from good times to lean times, and back to good times again. It's because we have cycles of time. And actually, Feng Shui started out as a study of how time affects where we live and affects a home. Because from one year to the next, I don't know about you, life can drastically change. And this is one of the things that really makes me a believer in Feng Shui, is that I can take those speed bumps of life, so where we go from 1 year's a disaster to 1 year's really great, and we can kind of make those speed bumps of life a little smoother and a little easier and a little smaller so that they're fewer and farther between. This is the benefit of Feng Shui, is that we can make things easier for us and help kind of control some of those times when misfortune is favoring us and make it so that we turn our fortune. You know, having good Feng Shui, though, doesn't mean that one never experiences misfortune. It just means that when the cycle of misfortune arises, that the way is smoother and it's easier, and those little bumps and bruises are easier to handle. And it's just like the times of misfortune that can be made easier. It can also be used to magnify greater fortune and blessings. And when Feng Shui is employed correctly, negativity can be held down and blessings magnified. I mean, what's not to love about that? That's one of the things that I've found, is that even when things seem bad for me, like one time I had, when my son was 5 years old, we were told that he would have to have open heart surgery. And I had started my Feng Shui newsletter, the Red Lotus Letter, about 3 years earlier, or prior to that. So I had a pretty good, sizable readership that subscribed to my e-zine. And I got some letters asking me, well, if I had such good Feng Shui, how is it that my son would have open heart surgery? Well, I can't always, we can't always feng shui things that happen to us and make nothing ever happen to us. But what we can do is we can improve our feng shui so that when things do happen to us, we have the help that we need when we need it. And as it turned out, we had the premier heart surgeon at Texas Children's General Hospital in Houston work on our son. And he was discharged from the hospital, I am not kidding you, 36 hours later, and he has a perfect heart. And in fact, his heart is better than most other kids' hearts that never had any kind of heart issue. And that's what is the beauty of feng shui, is that, again, it's not that misfortune never finds you. It's just that when it does, the right people or the right circumstances all fall into place for you. So to me, that is like one of the greatest benefits that you can have with feng shui, is that the right people are there for you at the right time. Now, a lot of people use that old standby definition that feng shui is wind and water. Well, what does that really mean? I mean, really. It refers to the elements that are at work in the environment and how those elements affect your home. In other words, the way your home is situated in the environment has an impact on your life. So if you have a beautiful ocean view outside of your Malibu home, well, then you've got some fabulous feng shui, you know. But if, by the same token, if you've got a tree like directly outside of your door, then you're going to have blocks. You're going to have missed opportunities. You're going to have things just simply not go right for you. And that's because that tree is blocking the entryway of chi for your home, and it's going to create blocks and lack of energy in your life in terms of opportunity and money, health, maybe even pregnancy or getting married. Maybe you're single forever. Yes, it's true. Trees, roadways, a church, electrical wires, all these things affect your home and correspondingly your life in some way. The same is true of clutter. A house that has a broken front door or a water leak. Our houses, again, one of the things I talked about in episode number 1 is that houses often reflect our lives. And whether they run smoothly or if they require a ton of effort, like we're having to roll a giant ball uphill, and they can either give us peace or despair. And for me, I want that road to be kind of smooth and level, not like I'm having to roll that boulder up a hill. Working really, really hard is a sign that something is probably not working in your life and in your home, and that feng shui that you're experiencing is creating blocks for you. And that's what we want to repair, right? But another concept about feng shui that's also really important is that balance is at the heart of feng shui. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, let's talk about this. Like a trapeze artist, feng shui is a practice of finding that balance, creating a home environment or a business environment that's both light and dark, smooth and rough, quiet and vibrant. Many people use that example of they want to create that Zen sanctuary type home. Well, a Zen sanctuary sounds like a church to me. And you know what? A church isn't a whole lot of fun typically. You're being told you're a sinner or you're burying somebody. Maybe there might be a wedding. But, we really don't want a sanctuary. We want the sanctuary in terms of safety. We want to feel safe in our home and protect in our homes, but our homes need to be full of life. The scales need to tilt when it comes to balance a little bit in the yang version. That means we want our house to feel a little bit more alive than it is still. Remember from the welcome episode, I had talked about how my house was deathly still. And so what I did was put a heartbeat for that house by putting a pendulum clock smack in the middle. Houses need movement. They need sound. They need growth. They need light. But they also need dark spots too. Places that are calm and soothing. You know, think of feng shui like a high wire walker. Either end of they usually carry like a long balancing pole, and either end of that pole represents a move to one energy or another. But as long as that pole is level and balanced, then the walker is going to remain on that tightrope. He's not going to fall down. He uses this pole to correct his sway and help keep him balanced. Well, it's kind of like that in Feng Shui. We can do that in our home. We can do that in our gardens. Like a garden that has both shade and sunshine is another great metaphor for the balance that Feng Shui encapsulates. A garden that is too hot and sunny can become tiresome. The plants will wither or thirst for water. Conversely, a garden that's completely shady and is too dark will create plants that don't thrive. They won't live. They'll become waterlogged or they'll suffer from rot. I have a neighbor that has a very shady garden and they've got no grass. They've got mud. Every time that there's rain, it's just mud there. But a garden with both sun and shade, light and dark, thrives and becomes a place that draws birds, butterflies, and people alike. Your plants grow and they look beautiful. The same is true when a home is too yin and there's an abundance of dark colors, a suppression of energy, or a lack of movement or light. When a house is too yang or too energetic, it may have too much light, too much noise, or too much stimulation, like the loud 75-inch TV on all day and night. That's a good way to keep your nerves on edge. Again, we have to find a way to find balance and harmony in homes so we can find balance in our lives. When our lives are dominated by too much yang energy, we're restless, we're always on the move, we're unable to relax or enjoy leisure time. Maybe we can't sleep. But when our homes are too yin, we can't muster the energy to get out and get moving in our lives or take action. Observing our homes helps us to see what kind of energy is most at work there and what kind of energy is exerting an influence in our lives. This is really what Feng Shui is about. The flow of energy has to be balanced. Like a smooth flowing river, this is a good example of harmonious energetic flow. When the water rushes too quickly, like a flood, well, harm occurs. When it's too slow, then there's drought. And when it comes to Feng Shui, water means wealth. So we want there to be a nice flow. Now, in a room, energy that rushes, like a long, narrow hallway or a straight pathway to your front door, energy can actually become harmful. But if it's stagnant, like when furniture is pushed against the wall and there's clutter everywhere or there's just stuff in the way, this creates a standstill in life. Just think about hoarders. If you've ever seen those shows and you see those houses completely stacked to the ceiling with stuff, you know that there's no flow in their lives. They're suffering from health problems, they suffer from money problems, they suffer from relationship difficulties. They're just suffering, right? Because they're so full of stuff. Really, it's so important that we look at our homes as where are they out of balance? That's really about what Feng Shui is and how we can improve our lives. There's a saying that we're a product of our environment. It's just simply another way of saying we're a product of our Feng Shui. The way our homes are arranged, maintained, or oriented in the landscape, and so on, it all affects the quality of our life and the quality of the energy that's at work in our lives. Looking at the energy that literally surrounds us is a great way to understand ourselves and how our lives are working. And lastly, understanding our home's energy helps us to understand that the energy that's working in our lives or the energy that's working against us. So hopefully that gives you kind of some idea about what Feng Shui is. It's about balance, it's about flow, it's about energy that's moving or not moving, as the case may be, like we talked about with the hoarders. So, as always, here are my 5-minute Feng Shui tips to help you raise balance and raise your home's energy level. The first is look for spots of congestion. This can be outside. Maybe you've got stuffed toys on the lawn, or there's stuff in the way of the door. Like a lot of people like to put a lot of plants right by the front door. Well, that actually can stop some opportunities from coming to your door. 2 nice plants on either side of the door are a great way to feng shui your front door. Too many plants, though, can stop some of that energy level, especially money. So look for spots of congestion, especially around your front door, and then look around in your living room and in your kitchen and in your bedroom. Look for places where you're getting stuck and congested. Tip number 2, Make entryways clear and free-flowing. This is so important. A lot of times we take shoes off at the back door or the front door and it becomes a big jumbled mess. We've got umpteen coats thrown there at the back door on the back of a chair or hung up, and it's messy. Always be looking at your entryways, because wherever there's a lot of congestion, that means energy isn't going to come into the house. In fact, I'll share a funny tip with you. One of the common things that I find when people have hemorrhoids is they have literally clutter at the back door, hemorrhoids or even constipation. So look at your back door and see when you're coming in, is there like paint cans everywhere and old lumber that you're having to walk through? If it's all congested and it's messy there at the back door, well, you might be having some stomach difficulties too. So make entryways clear and free at the front door and the back door. All right, last tip, number 3, look around for balance. Is your house too bright? Is it too dark? Is it too quiet or too noisy? If it's too dark, turn on a light. Open the windows. If it's too bright and too sunshiny, you may have a feeling of just being nervous or anxious all the time. Balance it out and make it a nice, even light, and you'll feel so much better. And if it's too noisy, turn some of that noise off. Turn the TV off. It doesn't always have to be on, despite what some of your family members may say. If you want to introduce a little noise, have some nice music playing in the background, just nice and mid-level range. Okay, so we've talked about Feng Shui today and what it's really all about. And we've talked about 3 Feng Shui tips to raise the balance or to help maintain balance and raise your home's energy level. I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a fantastic day, and thanks for joining me on 5-Minute Feng Shui. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of 5-Minute Feng Shui. If you did, please be sure to share this episode with your friends on social media, and let's change the world one home at a time. For more Feng Shui information and inspiration, sign up for my free weekly Feng Shui Easy. Just drop by redlotusletter.com to sign up, and I'll be in your inbox every Wednesday. And if you like this episode, give it a thumbs up on iTunes. Now go have a fantastic day.